an award-winning actor who has tackled the roles of many strong and scarred women, drama and tragedy is nothing new to Shamaine Buencamino. But when an unforeseen tragedy struck her own home, she took on a new role in life. On Profile, Shamaine shares with us how the tragic circumstances of her 15-year-old daughter's death have evolved into a mission to reach out to many more teens struggling with mental health issues.
It's hard to be alive, hard to stay alive, and maintain a will to live with that hanging over my head. But I can't complain. I shouldn't. I won't. I can't burden these people with my troubles. It's not their problem. I will bear it. I have to. I can't crack.
This journal entry, found among many poems and sketches left behind by her daughter Julia, became a clue to the despair that led her to take her own life at 15. Shamaine, I know it may be hard to relive the moment, but would you mind telling us about the experience of finding out when Julia passed away?
I was in rehearsals of 33 Variations, and my director asked me to step out. My eldest daughter sent word that I should go to the hospital. Okay. And I immediately called her, and she said, I'm also on my way, Ma, so I don't know what happened. But Jose is there, my youngest son. So I called Jose, and then, Jose, what happened? He said, Julia took her life. On the way, I remember asking 3 questions. I remember asking, why Julia? And then the next question was, what have I done?
Yeah.
And then the next question was, why God? I didn't really think that she was going to die. And when the doctor said that we've tried to resuscitate her twice, we can't do anything, I remember a stillness. Everything just sort of stopped. And I remember asking him, can I be with her?
What was going through your head?
At that time, I felt like I had to talk to her. I had to say, goodbye.
Looking at photos of Julia growing up, it's hard to imagine her inner turmoil. Shamaine remembers her as a bubbly teen who smiled and laughed easily.
Julia was called Sunshine by her friends. She had this big laughter, and she would dance in the streets. She's not shy at all. She was an actress even when she was young. They say that girls, you can categorize them into 2, the cowgirls and the princesses. And I knew she was a princess because even when she ran, she would do it daintily. And she needed taking care of, you know? Some girls, they do their own thing, and she would like, I need help.
She was fondly known as Bestie on a regular teen show and was well loved by friends on the set and in school. In fact, ironically, she had talked 3 of her friends out of taking their own lives. But her art and writing painted a different story, that of a teen struggling with mental illness.
You bring up your child in the best way that you can. You know that they're sad. I knew that Julia had difficult emotions, and I thought it was because she was a teenager.
Like my adolescents.
Like my other kids, they were moody, difficult to talk to. I came across her poem, I Am Not Pretty, and I even shared it with Noni. And I said, look how poetic our child is. She's talking about scarred thighs and voices in her head, not thinking that she was talking about herself.
To make sense of Julia's death, Shamaine gathered her art, poetry, and journals for a psychological autopsy, a scientific method of determining someone's mental state post-mortem.
When I looked through her things, her earlier years, her diary was full of hope and full of joy. And then suddenly, it was dark. I brought her work to a doctor. She has a borderline personality disorder based on what she wrote.
Julia suffered from a mental condition characterized by a difficulty controlling moods and emotions, and symptoms often resulting in impulsive actions and problems with relationships. Borderline personality disorder may have caused her to feel anger, depression, and anxiety for prolonged periods of time.
If only I knew that this illness can happen at any age to anyone, to those who are rich, to those who are poor, then to a certain degree as a parent, you're aware. We should all be aware that it can happen to our children, especially now.
Shamaine and her husband, actor Nonny Buencamino, had to learn the hard way how the ruthless illness left Julia feeling alone.
I learned that I should have listened more to her when she was alive. I learned that she was trying to talk about what she was suffering, but we couldn't see it.
Yeah.
She was waiting for us. Her suicide blog, she put there that I wish you would have noticed, but it's not your fault, I promise.
I did not consider at all the possibility that she was going through something that would cause her to consider taking her life. I regret that very much, that I didn't look more deeply into her and what she was suffering.
For a long time, I thought it was my fault for not being a good mother. I learned that it's an illness. It can happen to even a perfectly raised child because it is a chemical imbalance.
Yeah.
It's probably triggered by a lot of things that happen in their environment, but the chemical imbalance is already there.
With suicides among the young on the rise, there's clearly a need for parents to be more vigilant these days. A message Shamaine now hopes to get across to other families.
Parents, I don't know if they will accept this because it's difficult to accept that it can happen to their child. And if they think that this is possible, then they will look at their child more closely.
So with your kids now, you pay more attention.
Yes,
you don't hold yourself back.
Yes, I ask them directly, are you having nightmares? How's work? How are your friends?
Though they're slowly picking up the pieces after the heartbreak of losing Julia, the Buencaminos move on day to day, knowing there will always be a missing piece in their lives.
There is a trauma I have to accept, but what I can say is that I think we are very much closer to each other now, and we try to pay attention more deeply to each other. Sometimes, a person tends to not really be mindful of a loved one.
If you had known then what you know now, what would you have told Julia?
I would have told her to ask my help, but she didn't. It's very hard for them, this I know now, for those who suffer mental illness, because the very major feeling that they have is of shame.
Yes.
I always say this, that it's not their fault.
Yeah.
Because if they believe that in their heart, that it's not their fault, they will ask for help. They should not suffer this alone. Theater has always been therapy for me. 33 Variations became therapy for me. It was a moment when I needed to stop thinking about her.
Shamaine, I remember in 2015 watching this beautiful play with you, 33 Variations, where you played a musicologist who, part of the story was the kind of a tense relationship with her daughter, and that was shortly after Julia's passing, and that must have been very difficult. What was it like having to portray this character and at that time?
Because I memorized my lines earlier, 33 Variations became therapy for me. It was a moment when I needed to stop thinking about her. I guess it gave me, rest.
Respected and admired by peers, critics, and audiences for her work on stage and on screen, Shamaine traces her acting roots to a childhood love for theater.
At an early age, I always felt that I had the skill to just come up with emotions easily. My imagination worked for me a lot because I used to play alone a lot.
Yeah.
So make believe, it felt like I was traveling, to different places and knowing characters.
Although she honed her craft on stage, it was on screen where she captured a wider audience with more mainstream projects.
It's lovely to lose yourself in a play because for 2 hours, you're just in the character. But we live longer on film.
After playing more than 100 roles on stage and screen, Shamaine has built a career out of a craft she's come to master and love all her life.
Your most memorable roles, can you tell me about some of them?
Those that were difficult, that I wasn't satisfied with even after the last show.
Yeah.
They stay with you because you're like, I could do this. Maybe next time I'll do this.
The intensity with which she plays her roles has won her many local film awards. But one of the highlights of her career came in 2012 when she received the Asian Film Award, tantamount to the Oscars of Asia, for her role in the film Niño.
How did you feel about that award?
That was very emotional for me because I stopped acting when my kids were growing up. And so I thought that even if I loved it, I would never really pursue it because I wanted something more secure. So when I won that, it's like, I'm old, but I'm, given this award. I'm not even famous here in the Philippines. I wasn't doing soaps. Someone asked me, what will your fans say? And I said, in my mind, I was saying, I don't have any fans. What will they say?
Throughout her years as a young bride, wife, and mother of 4, she has come to realize that acting will always be part of her role in life.
What's it like being married to a fellow actor?
Difficult? Yeah, when I was young, I said I will never marry an actor. But it allows us to talk about our craft. Like every time we watch something non-stop, it's like a talk show. I like that. I don't like, oh, she should do this, she should do that.
Yeah.
Shamaine believes that their shared passion as actors has shaped the way they've raised their family.
Our emotions are always out.
Yeah.
Like when we're angry, we're not calm people. We're not. Some families, diba, I really admire them because their kids are so well managed. Their parents are calm. We're not calm. When we're mad. We're shouting.
You let it out.
Yes,
talaga.
and when we're happy, we're like rolling on the floor laughing. It's good, but it has its advantages.
More than 3 years after Julia's death, Shamaine is back on track in her work and playing new roles with a deeper understanding of human nature.
When you know death that close, you realize that life is really so short. You realize quickly what matters and what doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And it gives you direction. Actually, it makes life better if you know death.
Yeah.
And you accept the fact that we're all going to die. Some people that you hold close to your heart might leave before you.
You learn to be more appreciative of everything,
and
everyone.
mindful.
Yeah.
While acting has been a crucial part of her healing process, Shamaine has also discovered its power to heal others. Soon after Julia's death, she took up classes in drama therapy, one of the many ways that art helps alleviate the hardship of mental illness.
When you're frustrated, the main problem there is that you don't have a proper exhaustion of what you're feeling. That's the time that you can then develop suicidal ideations. So artistic mechanisms such as this allows a better exhaustion of those clogged up feelings.
By mustering her passion and intensity as an actor and harnessing the healing power of artistic expression, Shamaine is becoming a messenger of hope to other teens suffering as Julia did, and to parents who could be feeling as helpless as she has.
If I would like an easy life, I would just act every time. But there's more to life than liking the feeling of acting. Even if it's difficult, I have to bring Julia's story so that others might be saved. That is one quality of the illness. It traps them.
To many, a bench is just a place to sit and wait or while away the time. But for many teens struggling with mental illness, a few minutes with friends on a bench has the power to quiet the voices of despair that hound their minds. Shamaine first introduced Julia's bench at Julia's own school. Making use of her art and poetry, her schoolmates decorated the bench and turned it into a welcoming place to sit and reach out to friends.
In America, it was a project. They would put benches in school grounds to encourage children to find a playmate. Like if you sit there, then the kids would know that you need someone to play with. The same thinking, like if you sit on the bench, maybe you need someone to sit with you and talk to you. And it would encourage, a person-to-person communication.
Soon after, Shamaine's friends, acclaimed artists and creative minds, lent their talent to give color and warmth to more Julia's benches. Today, they've reached many more schools through the Julia Buencamino Project, a growing community that Shamaine and Noni set up to raise awareness on mental health issues and suicide prevention, a community that embraces those struggling with mental illness.
Was it difficult for you to open about Julia's death, to discuss depression and suicide?
I woke up the second day after Julia died, and I woke up with a voice in my head saying, go public. But I didn't know what to do with it. Noni and I knew that Julia's poetry is really beautiful, and she was really talking about stuff that normal people would not show.
Yeah.
Stuff that they would hide. So we thought that we should share this to warn kids and warn parents.
Yes.
So we started with that.
Her story has inspired us to reach out to young people like her so that what happened to her does not happen to others.
Through the Julia Buencamino Project, Shamaine now tirelessly reaches out to many more teens, passionately making it clear to them that they are not alone. Every year, the Julia Buencamino Project stages a festival of arts and ideas, where Julia's poetry and art come alive again in vibrant colors, movements, and spoken word. Julia's benches have become the centerpiece of the festival, which is named after her poem, Will You Still Love Me?
I understood that Julia's fatigue from life came from the fact that she had to pretend to so many people that she was well. She had to pretend that, her life was wonderful when she was crumbling inside. And so that poem. I also realized how powerful her poem was when we released it. And so many people opened up.
One of those who were deeply moved by Julia's death was young musician Laia Arruder, who also grew up struggling with bipolar disorder and only opened up to her parents after finding out about Julia's death.
What happened to Julia, kahit very sad and heartbreaking, it was a wake-up call for me to ask for help. Since I was a kid, I've already felt those feelings, depression, anxiety. No matter how hard you try to stay afloat, you really just keep sinking.
By sharing her story in song, Laia hopes to save many more lives as a growing number of teens struggle with this illness that takes over their day-to-day lives.
We can talk to people around the world, but we are even not able to connect to our own emotions.
Exactly.
We're like Facebook, this, call, everyone. There's so many things to watch on video.
Yeah.
And then we forget that,
To just be.
to just be.
A bamboo plant stands in the middle of Julia's benches, with paper cranes hanging from branches. The paper cranes contain messages from people who share the despair Julia once felt, but kept secret.
I've learned that is one quality of the illness. It traps them into thinking that they have no right to ask for help. That they can, try to cure themselves.
Yeah.
Because it's mental, it doesn't show on the skin.
There was no reason for me to feel that way because I have very supportive family, loving parents. It wouldn't make sense if I had depression. There was always that fear of not being understood.
A great part of the Julia Buencamino Project's advocacy is making people, especially teens, understand that depression, anxiety, and other mental conditions are not just emotional states that can be easily brushed away. They are real illnesses that can and should be treated with therapy and medication. Those who suffer from it should not be ashamed to ask for help.
It feels really great kasi before, it's really hard to talk about it. Pero mas madami na kasing people na aware sa mental health and it's easier to voice out your emotions, your feelings.
So many people are hiding behind their walls, behind their masks, and they're really afraid to be judged. I keep telling them, it's not your fault.
Yeah.
Show us your face. I mean, it might be ugly, but we'll still love you.
This love permeates throughout the festival as people express their pain in a more tangible, recognizable form.
I've always believed in the arts as a healing form. I just want to nurture and to motivate people suffering this illness to form support groups around art.
Yeah.
This is not talk therapy, this is art therapy. So you just paint together your clothes.
Lahat ng na-feel kong emotions, china-channel ko lahat sa music. Yung negative thoughts ko, nata-transform ko siya into something beautiful.
Each battle with mental illness is different, But through the Julia Buencamino Project, survivors can find solace in a community that cares and courageously talks about their battle scars.
Why do you think we should keep this conversation going?
If we don't talk about it, more people will die. That's the bottom line. They have to be given voices, especially those who cannot speak for themselves because they're suffering. They're made mute by the illness. Those who are brave enough to tell their stories, we have to bring it out.
Our daughter is gone, but there is some satisfaction that we feel when we are able to guide other people if their children or their loved ones are going through the same difficulties that our daughter had.
If Julia knew the impact that her poetry, her art is making on people now, the community, what do you think she would have thought?
She would be happy. She liked to be the center of attention too. Julia liked to help. The sad thing about Julia is that she stopped believing that she will get better. I think if we are hopeful, if we believe that there is someone out there looking out for us, we will not succumb to this illness.
Shamaine is a bright beacon of hope and light in the fight against the dark stigma of mental illness. She reminds us to speak up, listen, ask, and help save lives. Through the Julia Buencamino Project, she also reminds us there's a safe space where anyone can come at their most vulnerable without judgment and fear, and that no matter how broken one may feel, we can and must choose life today and always.